All right, we are live.
All right. So we are waiting for one more council member to arrive so that we have a quorum before we will begin. So we're just gonna wait a few more minutes. Do we have to have a quorum if we're not making decisions? I don't believe we do, but I'm not sure.
I'm starting. I will be back in just a minute.
I didn't think so, just as long as no decisions were being made in your like show and.
Right, I believe so. That was my, that's what I thought as well, but I think he started just announcing quorums even though we didn't need it.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Normally, you don't have to put the paper clips back on there.
Okay, you sure?
I have to copy it all.
Oh, okay.
It was Tito. Oh, was he on the phone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're waiting for more.
Lauren's the only one that could possibly show up. Everybody else already informed that they weren't gonna be here.
Councilmember Espinoza, Councilmember Williams, I really like the US map that's behind your head.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Is it just like an abstract or is that like highways or something?
It is an abstract. It's a piece of art.
I like it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Hey, Sheree.
Hey, so I was just looking up on MRSC really quick, and it looks like under the OPMA rules, it's considered a meeting when a quorum of city council is present. So I think that even though it's just a workshop, there still has to be a quorum. It doesn't specify anything under the definition of a meeting on whether you're making decisions or not. There is a separate section that talks about decision making and having to have a quorum, but I think even for it to be a meeting, there needs to be a quorum.
Thank you.
In that case, we would just reschedule this week kind of type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff in here, was, things you've already seen, the community grant application. I can just have that as informational item, like the next week. People look at. Who was that?
Nothing's changed.
The preliminary budget is kind of similar.
Yeah,
The only update is the
There isn't an update,
contract with the police, right?
correct, so.
but that's not signed yet. so-
Yeah, so nothing's really changed on the or the 6-year plans, and then Lions Park, I mean, we could delve into that more the next meeting and stuff, so I mean, there's nothing that's like critical for this meeting, but definitely for next meeting for several reasons, we need quorum.
Yeah,
Next meeting, if I have to like drive and get people, I will.
Yeah, because we haven't set property tax levy next
Where's
meeting.
my quorum of city council? Okay, so question. It says a meeting occurs when a quorum of a city council county, blah, 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 gathers with the collective intent of transacting the government body's business. So if we're not a quorum, then it's not a meeting.
Yeah,
Because with our other, commissioners, even if we, well,
that's because they taking action on those.
Yeah. So if it's not a meeting, we're not required to have a quorum. I don't know, that's how I read it. Jay Shree sent another link.
does it have to be a meeting in order for these things to be discussed or presented? That's
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it to be discussed, I know for decisions.
sure.
The general governing transaction, the majority of the council must be present. Okay, for a 7-member council, 4 members. Or,
It'd just be meeting information for me.
no voting, will take place, with no voting.
Well, Mel.
Did you guys all know?
were online?
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, they left, but came back. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess it's under interpretation if I read it to be that we're not in a meeting and we're not gonna vote, so we don't have to have a quorum. But it could also be that we don't have a quorum and we're not supposed to have a meeting.
yeah.
Well, when I first started, or when we first started the workshops, we didn't think we had to have a quorum. And then I know at one point, Mac and I were the only ones that showed up. And so, and then we started requiring quorum. And so I'm not 100% sure if the interpretation changed or if that was an effort to get people to actually come.
I remember it being that way as well when I first started.
Yeah,
And I don't know at what, I mean, I just remember at some point Lisa started announcing a quorum at workshops, but I didn't think we had to have them.
yeah.
But again, if it changed and we just didn't know about it and she did, right?
Yeah. I gotta go way to the south, let me call Bree,
And ask her,
yeah.
on meetings of governing bodies of the public agencies must be done with quorum, generally gathering of members, attend meetings, no secret ballots, adoption of ordinances.
So the last document I just sent, it says generally a gathering of the members of a governing body is subject to the OPMA when a quorum of the governing body is in attendance with the collective intent to take action, which includes discussion or deliberation as well as voting. So yeah, maybe you're right. If you're not taking action, discussing, deliberating, or voting, then a quorum isn't required.
Hired, right?
Yeah, cause that was,
Except for the deliberating.
that was
Yeah.
my memory of it, like, that we were actually at a meeting where there was some onus of both, and there was, but with these workshops, there were precluded from, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
discussing the topic.
Yeah, but discussing, what did it say, Jayshree, again, discussing?
So it
Voting.
says, with the collective intent to take action, which includes discussion or deliberation as well as voting. So,
As well as, so we're not voting.
right, you're
I'm
not,
Yeah.
you don't intend to take action. So
Right. Okay, I'm calling it. We're gonna start our meeting. All
Okay.
right. Thank you, everybody. It is Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, and I now call to order the City College Place Workshop. It is 5:40. Do you thought we have, Jerry? Okay, 5:40 PM. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Joseph,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson. Not present.
Not present.
Councilmember Williams
Present.
and Councilmembers Cleveland, Sherman, and Boyle have asked to be excused.
All right, thank you. So we do not have a quorum and we will not be making any decisions. Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Right, it's now time for public comment. Did anyone submit a comment?
No one submitted a comment and we do not have anyone in the attendees list.
Okay, if there's anyone present within the council chambers that would like to speak, please raise your hand. All right, there are none, so let's move on to workshop topics. We have 5 workshop items tonight and no action will be taken, so remember that. So first one we have is a Lions Park update by Community Development Director John Rickard and City Administrator Mike Rizzatello. We also have Brian Hanson, is that correct? Okay. From Anderson Perry present.
Yeah, we do have Brian Hanson present from Anderson Perry. He's our primary lead engineer on the project. And also online with Anderson Perry is Jake Danger, who's going to be kind of scrolling through the presentation or the 60% plans. So that's where we're at right now is the 60% plans. We asked Brian and Jay to come tonight to just provide a brief view of the project, answer any questions you have, give us an update on the timeline and where we're at with the secret neutral process. Yeah. So,
All right,
Brian?
welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, everyone,
Hello.
Brian. Just slightly so I can see the same screen yours.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Pettinger.
See.
Yep.
Yep.
So, as John said, I'm just gonna give you maybe a 10 to 15 minute walkthrough of what's in the 60% plan for Lions Park. Talk about the permitting, which is the title up to the funding. So what you see on the screen is just the cover page of the 60% plans. We've been working with city, we've had comments from the FAR board. So Jay, you want to take to the overall site plan?
Yes, sir.
Just start with. So we've broken the site up into kind of 4 areas just to make the plans that work better. You see area 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll kind of zoom into each spot. We'll talk about what's going on in each area, some decisions that are being made, and then we'll go over the more interesting things like the playground equipment. I know parking lots and utilities aren't always the fun part, but let's go to that first area, Jay. So the northwest portion of the site is mostly the existing parking lot. So we're updating that parking lot. We're keeping the RV sewer dump there. We've, with some input from Public Works, realigned how the parking and the RV dump interact. We've got more accessible parking. We're updating the accessibility into the existing building. In this one, you also see the new playground just to the south of the existing building. And later on, I'll show you a little bit. We are remodeling the bathroom there. One thing to note, the park board had some comments on the islands within this parking lot, so we're going to address that between 60 and 90 just to make sure that we make it still as much accessible for those, RV. So that's high level, what's going on in this part of the, you can see the path that kind of loops around the field. You'll see there's a big loop that goes all the way around the park that will have both, some workout equipment stationed around, and it has lighting. We'll go through that lighting in a minute. Has lighting, it will have markers so that you can know if you want to run a quarter mile 6 times, or you want to, so there'll be some signs for that. Jay, you want to go to the next slide?
That's great.
Oh, sure.
Is that little nub there, did you guys decide what you're gonna do in terms of like making a platform or a knoll for potential fans?
Yeah, it will be raised up, so it won't be, it will be a few feet higher than the field.
Or just a raised grass knoll?
It'll be a raised, kind of concrete platform with a
Oh,
slope.
okay.
So kind of like
So-
Washington Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
I say concrete, I should say asphalt, the paths through there are all asphalt. So it'll be a raised hard surface with a grassy slope down to the field.
Nice.
All right, Jay, next one for me. So down to the south parking lot. Generally, what's going on in the parking lot here is it's a similar layout as you've got currently. We've added some winter islands, we'll be adding lighting. The big black rectangles you see there are 2 large stormwater treatment vaults. So the grant that the city has from the Department of Ecology to treat stormwater from most of the development up the hill from the park. I'll talk about it in a second here, but those vaults sit there. Water will be collected from existing systems, run through those vaults, and then discharged to the stream. So we're providing substantial water quality treatment compared to existing condition. The more exciting part of this is just east. You see the kind of black triangle, that's the splash pad.
Oh.
Just to the south of that, southwest of that little rectangle is the proposed restroom. To the east of the splash pad is the picnic shelter. And I'll show you all those things there.
So we're gonna have another set of bathrooms.
There, yes, there's a requirement for a splash pad to have a bathroom within.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there will be 2 bathrooms, to park now. There's some bike parking here, there's some bike parking up at the other, area that I didn't mention.
There.
Yeah, right up there. The sculpture that's currently by the playground is being moved to that area on the last sheet. Jay, you want to go to the next sheet that doesn't have a whole lot to talk about, but the northeast corner, there is a proposed maintenance storage building just north of the path there, a trash enclosure for the park there. We will be putting in a new backstop. The existing structure will go away, but there'll be a new backstop. And again, you can see the path that goes all the way around the park. You see the lighting on some different sheets, but there's pedestrian scale lighting all around the walking path and plenty of lighting in the parking lots for cars. Just a note here, the plan is to upgrade the irrigation within the entire field there so that we get a nice product for the field. And then the last corner of the site is the pond and the stream. You can see here from the blue hatching, the intent is to separate the pond from the stream. There will still be an inlet structure at the east end that allows water into the pond, and an outlet structure on the west end that allows the water to go out of the pond. So we keep that, but we're eliminating essentially the dam that's under the existing bridge, so that the stream is a more natural stream all the way through the park. Also in this area, and as part of that, we will have an aeration system that pumps air into the pond to keep circulation. Part of the couple issues with the current pond. It's so big compared to the amount of flow, but it's also off of the side of the creek that circulation doesn't happen very well, and that pond gets a lot of algae. And the other thing is, I mentioned stormwater. There's a stormwater pipe that comes straight down the hill from the development, as you can see on the screen, and currently dumps straight into the pond. So that stormwater from the much previous development is not treated, and any sediment that came down ended up in the pond. So we are routing that pipe all the way over to the parking lot to those stormwater vaults I talked about. That's part of the Department of Ecology grant. You can see here that the pathway on the south side is substantially wider than the rest of the pathways. That is the route that's currently used to get, well, fire, but also tree trimming equipment to the HOA property east of the park. So we're making sure that there's still a route for that to happen. How wide is that? It's a 12-foot path there.
I just wondered what that was for.
Yep. So 12-foot path there, and then you can see the turnaround. And that also is the point where there's a gate into that adjacent property on the east edge there. Immediately adjacent to that turnaround, you'll see the little white square in the pond. That's a ADA accessible fishing dock. It's part of one of your RCO grants.
Excellent. Councilmember Jessup?
How much I had two questions real quick. How much does this reduce the pond in terms of, because it's got more flow, you're saying, there's an inflow and outflow separate from the creek, but there's still going to be more flow, and you said, does it reduce the pond? Like, you got the island, right?
The island is still there. We've just kind of, you can see we've kind of
Yeah.
made the island longer. So it reduces that portion of the pond where Jay's got the cursor. Generally, what's south of the island got, actually, we have a sheet where we, because it's a 60% plan, didn't turn off the asphalt path around. So you'll see that the pond gets squeezed a little bit from the south, and that strip to the north by the island, but we tried to keep the pond as wide as possible.
And I can't help but ask, because I'm leery with all we got going on with wastewater and stuff, so I'm sure the answer is yes, but with the treatment in the parking lot and that treatment, you know, obviously it's gonna be, and that's gonna be, essentially the question is, that matches current regulations of wastewater treatment, not wastewater treatment, excuse me, runoff treatment. And any future, even if there are restrictions and that kind of stuff get, you know, more finite in the future. Those are all matching current code and even future code when they get stricter.
I can't answer the future when it gets stricter, but what I can.
You know what I mean, though? Like,
Yeah, so what I can tell you about the grant that application that we helped you fill out and that you received is all of the stormwater that's being treated that isn't part of most of the stormwater that we're treating with the vault is not from the park. It's from the 9 acres to the south of the park that is, it's that development, and it's, I want to call it Dallas Military Road, but in Colorado Place, it's
12, yeah.
all the way, it's 12, almost all the way back to State Farm.
I know you can't know the future, but my
Yeah.
obvious question is, we're gonna spend a ton of money on this, you know, 5, 10 years from now, we know that the restrictions are gonna get harsher. Are we prepared for that when the money that we're spending now on the treatment? It's basically my question.
Yeah, so I understand exactly where you're going. That area is not being treated whatsoever, and we're bringing it all the way up to the current standards using ACART, which is all known and available technology.
Yeah.
So, there's not a better standard that can be treated to.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, never mind. I'll ask a question when we go, because we're gonna look at more in depth. Is that correct?
A little bit. I was gonna go to the landscape plans because they have more about the playground and splash pad, and I know that.
Let's go to that.
Storm, so,
Thank you.
yeah, Jay, you wanna keep rolling through the plans then? I kind of hit the stormwater part, so we can probably, Okay.
Yeah, I got jumbled. So these are all just the point shot gradings. Here's a better view of the pond itself. To follow up on a previous question, you can see the original edge on the south
okay.
end and how it rolled through. One thing to note is we're adding 4 to 5 feet of depth in the pond, which will enhance the fish habitat with that. So I felt it was worth touching on that one since it was a question.
Mhm.
It's just under 10 feet deep.
Yeah, and this one we left in the existing concrete pathway that's falling into the pond. So that gives you a better idea of the reduction on the south end.
A quick question, Councilmember Espinoza. So the current depth, what is the current depth of the pond?
Say it's 805 down to 803, and we're establishing a 8015. So and the elevation, we're still in getting it tied in to make sure we can get that 10-foot depth. We anticipate an 811.5 finished surface of the pond.
So
Does that pose any sort of risk or safety hazard in any way for little children or users, specifically around the pond when they're fishing?
Well, anytime, I was gonna say, anytime that, kids are around water, even at the way it is, there's always going to be a risk, but we are establishing a very shallow 3-to-1 slope, which is, it's a gradual slope that goes in. So if a child does get in there, it's not like they're going to drop off an embankment.
I would say we're improving the situation over, I mean, it's basically sludge right now. And, if a kid were to fall into it, I mean.
That's more dangerous.
You might lose them in it, and it's so, the kid could just sink down into it.
I will say that 3-to-1 slope is what you would consider a standable slope. If you were on a 3-to-1 slope, you can stand up on that fairly. So that was one of the things that we put into the pond, that we wanted to make sure that it wasn't a straight drop off to an 8-foot deep pond. So anytime you have a pond and you have open water, there is inherent danger over. We've attempted to offset some of that with the way that the depth of the pond is created.
John, I assume we'll have signs, just telling, watch for children or something like that.
I don't think we have any sort of signage like that right now. Our insurance company is aware that we have a pond.
Yeah.
The pond has been, I think near those depths before, it's just filled in the sediment.
And we don't have anything right now saying watch your children or anything, right? I don't think we do. Yeah, okay, just asking. Thank you.
This is a silly question. This is my interest, so I can speak to you in terms. This looks like a topography map to me. What do you call it in engineering terms when you're looking at slopes like that?
I would call that,
This slope is whatever.
yeah, topographical map is what I would call it.
So still, it's the
Yeah.
same term for engineers.
Same term.
All right, I just want to make sure.
I would call this a grading plan. but
Grading, that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Topographic map is what I would call the existing contour.
Silly question, that's just my ignorance. I want to know how I'm speaking with you.
Absolutely. All right, Jay, you want to take this back to the landscape plans?
Yep.
You want to the landscape plans? I think we kind of hit stormwater enough. We can pass those. Still going? Oh.
Did we lose him? We would have lost you.
So there we go. You want to keep going, Jay?
I apologize. I have bad speaker quality. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, go to landscape.
These are just construction details for all of the items that are addressed previously, and
So the beginning of the landscape, you can see all the lines across the field. We are, again, upgrading the irrigation system
Hmm.
so that you have nice. Next one, Jay. Next, oh, you got it, okay. Keep going. Let's go to the one with the playground on it. There we go. So, little bit hard to see, but you can see the big kind of amoeba shaped playground. And the surfacing will be the poured in hard rubber or soft rubber surfacing. It won't be loose. It will be a finished fall protection area. I really want to point at this ring, or Jacob pointed it for me. So in the upper right corner, there's kind of a merry-go-round type toy, which you can see in the top middle. And then just to the west of that, there's the big, what you would think of as a typical park play structure, which is that bottom right hand corner. It's got the slide and the climber. There is a swing right in the middle, and you can see that that's an accessible swing. If you look at the picture in the bottom, I know it's a little hard to see on the screen, but that intended to be set up that you could put someone with a disability into the swing and they could still use it. And then the left side of the playground in the light blue is this interesting zip line type toy that you see in the bottom left corner. And then the last piece is that cool, it's called a roller table, I believe. It's the one with all the yellow bars where the kids can kind of propel themselves through the window. So we've got, and then there's some other smaller pieces. You can see there's some chime type equipment and in the top left. So a lot of variety. You can see many of these are inclusive playground items. There will be a fence all the way around the playground. There are some benches within there for parents to sit and watch their kids. So that's the current configuration of the playground.
That's great. And I know we had a lot of requests for disability inclusive accessible toys. So that's, and the fact that it's a poured in hard rubber allows them, you know, somebody in a wheelchair or who has unstable footing to be able to.
Correct.
That's excellent.
Councilmember Williams would like to speak.
Councilmember Williams?
Thank you. I'm really excited about this. I can't see from here what the 3 different colors mean. I see they're on the legend, but I can't read what it says.
I believe the surface will actually be those 3 different colors.
Okay, nice.
Oh,
And that the playground will be quite colorful.
yay.
So
Oh, that's nice. I was picturing that black, you know?
Okay.
So I like this much better.
yeah. So any comments on the very bright colors of, obviously those aren't the actual colors of the product, they're the best we can do.
I love it.
But yeah, the intention is to have kind of 3 very distinct kind of non-engineered shapes for the playground. So you want to flip to the splash pad.
Hold on. So, Brian, here's the schematic layout, and then I have the image that was provided.
Yeah. So I know I'm taking up more than the 10 to 15 minutes of your time, like I said, so we'll show the splash pad. Jay, you want to pull up the other, while you're pulling up the other image? There we go.
This is great.
We've got, a few taller items. This one actually doesn't have, the current plan actually has two kind of water cannons that are on opposite sides of this splash pad that kids can shoot in about a 30-degree angle at each other. So, but this is kind of the scale of the splash pad items is what I wanted to point out here. I think the tallest one is about 12 feet tall, and then there's a couple 7-foot tall items, so.
And then some really tiny ones for like toddlers.
Correct.
I see
Yep,
that.
Yep.
That's great.
And some tiny ones, so. That's where things are headed, in that plan set, which is in your workshop packet, there's also the kind of pre-manufactured, restroom that's just next to the
Okay.
splash pad. There's a schematic of the renovation of the existing restroom. The plan is to have both sides of that restroom be identical. They'll be unisex. There'll be a urinal and a tenant's toilet in each and a sink. So that plan is also in here. Electrical wise, again, there's lighting around the pedestrian areas. There's lighting in the parking lots. There's outlets around the part of the path where the farmer's market normally goes. So that's in the plans.
The bleachers, we're taking those down and we're not replacing them with anything, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, you know, parents can put chairs on the side around the field or something.
Right.
but
There-
that's-
We are putting a backstop back. There will be a backstop, but there will not be bases or an infield created. If someone wants to come play baseball, they can throw down their rubber bases. We've made sure that the little league field could fit there,
Okay,
but it's not gonna be a cutout in. It will be a place where you can play baseball, but it's not. That won't be its own.
yeah, it's not a set field for baseball only. Okay, no, that's great.
And then John asked me to talk on, so permitting wise, we're working on sending 60% plans to the Department of Ecology for the stormwater grant piece. We've been going back and forth with RCO, which you have 3 grants on RCO. 2 of them are state funds. One of them, the pond portion, is National Park Service fund. So we have been communicating with RCO on the cultural inventory that we completed, and we have verbal that that's complete. We don't have the official signed off yet, but we're still trying to determine State Environmental Protection Act checklist versus National Environmental Protection Act checklist on the pond portion. So we are going to complete a SEPA checklist for the entire project, identify the different pieces and different grants, different parts of the project. That will allow us to be completed on environmental permitting on the playground and the field and the splash pad and the parking lots. It may cover the stream and the pond. It's not entirely clear that that's the case or not. There may be an extra step. So we've been having several conversations with RCO as of late, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of that sooner than later. As schedule looks, it looks like we would be going out for bid in the first few months of next year to be able to start construction in late mid-spring kind of situation is what we're currently
Councilmember Williams would like to speak.
Okay, Councilmember Jessup and then Councilmember Williams.
Again, thanks for the presentation. In terms of when you're talking 60% plans and for grant, when does insurance and or city lawyer and stuff like that get involved in checking off these plans in terms of like the playground, you know, age limits, safety of the playground, ponds, schematics, so on and so forth? Like, when does insurance go? Or liability purposes, when do they get involved?
I mean, Mike, you might
Yeah.
talk about this, but we don't, from my knowledge, we don't run these sort of plans through our insurance company.
They cover our all park activities, and in essence, what we do early on is just explain what the renovations were gonna be like, which there's an email trail on that to WCIA a couple of years ago with the conceptual, and they were okay with it. If anything, as of right now, we're at a pretty significant liability just because, you know, you aren't really supposed to have a sidewalk around pond sliding into it, and then same with, yes, I mean, over years, I mean, that's been some of the things they've expressed. I mean, this is actually gonna alleviate a major, I would say, liability concern on my part with this.
Well, and the existing playground, we were hoping to maintain that piece of equipment and incorporate it into the new stuff. But after we evaluated that piece of equipment, determined that it's at the end of its life, and there's a number of safety concerns that really can't be addressed. And that just need to be eliminated. So we're making it safer.
Yeah, I'm always just thinking about it in my head, we're doing all this work, paying all this money, and then 2 years from now, all of a sudden somebody comes in, wants to sue or insurance, is like, no, that's wrong, I'd rather be ahead of it.
Yeah.
I've got to be, I'd rather just be like, no, here's the engineering plans, good, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Councilmember Williams?
I had a question about the bathrooms. Are they gonna have changing tables?
I don't believe that there are any changes.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
Very possibly as an option for the manufacturing one.
Yeah, and it would definitely be an option that we could put into the retrofit bathroom as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't add a lot of cost.
No.
So.
That's- I know that those are really helpful, and if we're going unisex, they should be in all the bathrooms. And then my other comment was, I foresee us having to put up signs saying that between certain hours, the water cannons are for children only. Otherwise, the kids will never get a chance with all the grownups playing with the water cannons.
No, geez.
The splash pad will absolutely have, it has a lot of controls involved. You can set what hours the splash pad works and doesn't work. You can set how, there's a push button that turns things on, so you can set how frequently you would like, you know, a kid might hit the button 100 times, but it's only going to go off once every 2 minutes or whatever. Like, so there are a lot of controls, but there are not any controls built in to keep parents from playing with the water.
And I don't expect, that was partially facetious, but I do think that this will be great for people of all ages in the summer, the splash pad.
So,
I have to say, I'm actually the one that made sure there were water cannons.
All right, then, now we see where we're going with it. Councilmember
sorry,
Jessup?
buddy, I got a lot of questions.
That's right.
So, first of all, I will concur with that, thinking of my wife and 4 kids, that having a changing table in the bathroom, that's crucial. Talk about water preservation and, in the city and that kind of good stuff. How does that get recycled? Like, how does that work with the splash pad?
Unfortunately, with the splash pad, if you want to recycle the water, you're basically into a whole pool system. So the water will get to the sewer system.
This came up early on in our process, determining which direction we went, and based on our staffing levels for parks at this point in time, we would literally have to have a person on staff that was capable and certified to operate a pool system. We just don't have the resources for right now, so that's why early on we decided way prior to your coming to go with a system that goes to the.
Sure, but I mean, it still goes in our wastewater, they're gonna be used, state of irrigation, so.
Yeah.
So it's still being.
Yeah.
used.
Yeah, exactly, and the issue was, is when we do that, we basically have to bring in a whole nother person. I contacted City of Walla Walla. They didn't have any extra time on their people where we could do it interlocal with them, so we would have had to sink a whole nother salary into
I just,
this.
for my time, I hear.
I mean, as it is, we're still, I mean, the operation of splash pad is going to put a tremendous amount of demand on public works departments. They're just out there every day dealing with just the random maintenance issues that come with it.
Sure.
But I will say part of what you can do with the controller though is exactly that. If you're noticing that, hey, we do have a separate water meter for the splash pad, so you'll know exactly how much water you're using for
Oh, okay.
the splash pad. If it gets to the point where you feel like you're using too much water, you make it so the kids can push the button and it only turns on once every 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes, or, you'll have, I think some of the equipment also has the ability to change how much water comes out of them. So there is some ability to be water conscious with them, but it ultimately will.
Any other questions or comments?
One thing I will add is these plans, went, through formal presentation with our Park Harbor and Recreation Advisory Board on Friday. They gave, preliminary recommendation to city council to, accept it as designed. The only change they wanted to see was some minor stuff on like radii with the RV dump, and that's gonna be dealt with. Everything else they were good with, so that is the vote they took on Friday.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
This is exciting. The little things in the city, the big deals for us. All right.
Leave you all to enjoy the rest of
Well,
your
you
day.
have a very good
Thank
evening.
you very much. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You as well. All right, let's see. Next, we have the third presentation of preliminary budget by Finance Director, Mr. Carlton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go through this quickly. There has been no, well, up until today, there hasn't been any changes made to the prior presentation. We did recently find out, we are aware of the preliminary offer to the police union.
Okay,
So that will be updated in the next presentation. And we will be recommending to council that we go with a 0% increase on property taxes for next year. So those are two minor modifications. I don't feel it'll be significant. It'll actually be a reduction in what we had in for the police as a percentage increase for next year. And it'll also be a slight reduction in the property tax amount that's in there. But those are both not really material numbers, won't impact it very much. If you go to the next one more slide. So this is the same number that we talked about in the prior presentation. You can see we are looking at a drawdown of close to $900,000 in ending fund balance. And as I spoke before, this relates mostly to the impact of the ARPA funds being carried forward to 2023, and there'll be some carried forward to 2024 as well, as we expend that total of $2.6 million, of which about $1.8 million will carry over to the next 2 years. So that attributes to most of the drawdown in the funds. And it's rather a large, if we go to the next screen. You can, oh man, I can't even see it. That's the industry secret for showing a lot of numbers. You can see down at the bottom, you scroll down to the bottom, you can see we're showing revenues of $61.8 million and expenditures of $62.7 million, and there's that drawdown of the $896,000. That is considerably higher than our historical revenues and expenditures, mostly because of, you know, the two major projects. Lions Park budgeted at it's 5.8 million in the 5.2 in the current CFP, and $26 million for the wastewater treatment plant. So those will come in as a revenue through the various funding sources, and then the expenditures out for those projects. So I won't go through detail of each individual fund grouping. It's the same numbers as last presentation, and we'll go into more detail in next week's presentation on the public meeting. Next sheet. And here again is the breakdown of the revenues. And you can see that the property taxes, even at our 1%, as you recall, we're only allowed to increase our total revenue on property taxes by 1% a year. So based on this, based on our forecast and the budgeted number, that's $21,000 is all we showed for increase. And as you recall, we only get about 7 cents on the dollar total taxes charged to the property owners. The balance of that is split between county, schools, and City of Walla Walla.
I appreciate you looking into that.
Pardon?
I said, I appreciate you
Oh.
looking into that because when I was reviewing the budget the last time, that it seemed
Not like a lot.
not like a lot, right? And I didn't.
Yeah, and so what you'll see is I just got the information late last week from the county on their assessed values, and assessed values are going up considerably.
Yeah.
But we don't, it's a deceiving number because really our rates are gonna go down per 100,000. So it almost looks like you're saving money, but everybody's property value went up. So you're paying less on a higher value. So it's kind of deceiving, but we will submit a 0% increase
Thank you.
for 2023.
I think that's a pretty big deal for even if it's not a lot of money for our budget to our homeowners, it's just knowing that one less thing that taxes are gonna go up on is.
Right, the reality is their taxes are gonna go up because we're a small percentage of the pool.
Right,
So,
but it's not because of
but
us.
it helps. It helps a little.
Yeah.
And you can see there about the sixth line down, the ARPA or American Rescue Plan Act funds that were received in 2021 and 2022. Those are the majority of the dollars that are carrying forward. And a big portion of that, at least, how much do we have in for the conversion in here?
For the conversion here, it's roughly around the 700,000 because AV equipment dealing with this appropriately, especially with supply chain and so forth. It's a heavy dollar item, but we knew that that's been forecasted in the CFP for the last couple of years. So
Yeah, and that's gonna be drawn out of that ARPA fund revenue that's in our fund balance carry forward. Sort of like your deposit account, we're putting money away. And same thing for Lions Park, we've got about $1.6 million in carry forward where we retained our REIT money, excise tax carry forward. And in the fund balances, you can see in the REIT well, that's just revenue, but in the fund balance in the prior slide, you can see that there's a drawdown in that fund balance, and that's related to that money we saved up over the last 2 or 3 years to help pay for Lions Park.
Yeah, that REIT money, it was created actually back first month I got here in 2016, so we've actually been building that up all the way since that point.
And then the same results, if you go down to the bottom of this page, you can see that, oh, this doesn't show, oh, this is just revenue, sorry, I was thinking of the drawdown. So you can see the big increase in the revenues in, that column highlighted at the bottom. You can see the $28 million, that's our expected increase in revenues next year. So that 26 million of that is the funds that we'll be getting in to pay for the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay,
So we're really kind of consistent in the total revenues year over year, but it's just that anomaly for, you know, a couple big projects. Next slide, please. And again, I brought back in this historical increase in the utility rates. And if you go to the bottom, you can see what we've anticipated for next year. By next week, next week or the following meeting, I'll have a recommendation on the rate increase, looking at if we really need to increase those balances. Wastewater probably, because we're gonna have to pay for close to $13 million in loans, low interest loans to pay for the wastewater treatment plant. So by increasing rates slowly, you know, preceding that requirement is you don't take a bigger hit later on. So it kind of smooths out, or later on you can reduce if you don't have the projects. Stormwater, as you recall, we did a 0% increase in 2022. We are thinking we will need a slight increase in that to maintain a healthy fund balance. We have a lot of projects in stormwater next year, in the next few years, so that'll help pay for those projects. And then I have to finish up on the rate models to find out where we are at on the water, to see how healthy that ending fund balance is. But there again, we have a number of projects that are coming up. We have the elevated tank, we have the pump station, lift station.
We have the well numbers.
Well, number 7, thank you.
Yeah, so,
Coming up.
because with the wastewater, the big projects really driving jumps next year is lift station 5, and that's Public Works Trust Fund money. And then all the wastewater funding package water, what we're really having to double down on, and we ended up getting Public Works Trust Fund money for the engineering and both, is reservoir number 4, and then also well number 7, because of all the well work we've done, that's only catching us up to where we were 6 years ago before everything failed on us. And then in that same time period, we grew by 2,000 people, so we need to rise to the occasion and that one. So water, we need to be definitely very careful about, because we aren't out of the woods by any means on that. Although I will say now is the time to do it, because there are a lot of grants and stuff out where we can essentially use our match money and get other people's money and make it happen. Because regardless, we're gonna have to do it, so we might as well do it while other money is available. Otherwise, you'll still end up paying for it except on your own.
So those are the rates currently that are included in the revenue numbers that are in the current budget. And that detailed budget is included in the package as well. So if you want to review the 170 pages,
Go for
bring
it.
your questions. Next slide. So we'll continue to review line items as we find things. We tweak a few things here and there. We have some stuff in. It doesn't affect the dollars, but the coding of the new ambulance utility we have to fix, and you know, we'll update the capital requirements and funding options if Mike has any changes. And then we'll update the wages with the PD union agreement once we confirm that. And then next week's an important meeting for everybody. We have We have the public hearing, the first public hearing on the budget, and we'll also add in the property tax levy for that hearing. And we'll also vote on the property tax.
Sherry, can you send an email to council reminding them this is a really important meeting and we need as many in attendance as possible? Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Anybody online? All right, I think we've got it all to memory now.
Couple more times.
All right, thank you. Okay, next, is the agenda, actually, no, the draft of the capital facilities, equipment replacement and IT plans.
Yeah, don't worry, we aren't gonna go over all this again, cause we've seen this a million times, but just as an FYI, so that way everyone, residents and everyone included has situational awareness. So we do these 6-year planning documents. The first year is more set in stone. The other 5 years are for planning purposes, and it allows us to chase after grants and outside money and maybe bring things in online sooner if we are able to locate said money. The 6-year capital facility plan tends to highlight improvements to our infrastructure, so water, sewer, storm, street, so on and so forth. And they outline really the key projects for the coming year on that. There's a lot of engineering afoot to get us positioned so we could go after the grant monies out of that bipartisan infrastructure bill. So for instance, in future council meetings, you're going to see resolutions of support requests for as we go after Department of Health money for well number 7 construction, reservoir number 4, and then some neighborhood projects. So a lot of engineering there, same with storm, because we're trying to deal with streets that have been on the list for a while. They have stormwater issues such as Southwest 10th from College Bay that don't have treatment in the Garrison Creek at sheet drains. And then likewise, right behind here, Birch from 4th to 6th. There's a creek that actually comes out of Public Works yard and then goes out on Birchwild on any treatment either. So playing catch up there. As far as the actual construction projects go, really the primary couple there going on is with our CDBG grant. We'll be putting in sidewalk on 8th from College of Bade, 6th from College to Davis. Lions Park is the big one, as is the wastewater treatment plant, getting that going, and then constructing a lift station number 5 to get rid of the coffee can on Southwest First. So things like that, and then getting this council chambers into the current century as well. We'll be doing all of that. So that's what you see in future years. There's other things dealing with police station facility, some improvements to public works yards, stuff like that. We've talked about a lot. Equipment replacement plan. That plan, luckily, both that and IT relative to past years are looking very good because with equipment replacement plan with the American Rescue Plan Act, we were able to move ahead with a Stellar truck, which helps with snow removal and street work, and then also a fire truck. Because if we didn't have the ARPA plan, that would have been a bond issue. So we avoided a pretty significant debt issuance right there. So really with the equipment replacement plan, you'll see a lot of standard carryover for our Jacobs contract at the treatment plant, the police cars, and then the fire department. Essentially it's replacing ambulance because when we started the thing, it was used ambulances that were used for many years by other agencies. So you can't do that forever. So that's a good example of that, but really just continuing on. And then with the IT plan, really the heavy lift there is implementing that the Tyler ERP system. And what's going to be nice to our residents is that it's everything under one roof. So the 311 app that was shown a couple meetings ago. That'll be in there, community developments, online permitting, there'll be another portal. And then finances moving all in there as well. Because that bias system got bought out by Springbrook, so we really have no choice, otherwise we would have to pay way more money for that. So nothing, I have gone over, before. One thing I will say, just for situational awareness, with with our solar array, how that went in Maple, that is for the most part substantially complete. You'll see some documentation here from the Inflation Reduction Act. I included that because we are waiting to turn that on until January of 2023. Essentially, we're having to approve a remobilization increase of like around $7,000 for McKinstry to come back out to energize it, as opposed to just doing it now. But why we are doing that is, with the Inflation Reduction Act, if you wait until start of 2023, you actually get like a 40% credit back from the federal for the construction of doing solar arrays. So essentially, even though the solar array was already like pretty much all grant funded, we're gonna get 40% back on top of that. So it's like free money on top of free money. So that's why if you see like, oh, hey, why are we paying them $7,000 to remobilize, turn it back on? That's because it's part of the Inflation Reduction Act. You can't capture that 40% if you energize it now. It's like set with 2023. So that's why we're doing that. So with that is the general gist of all of this. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Any questions for Mike? Looks like we're good, Mike.
Okay, and then this will have a hearing on the CFP, November 22nd, so that's the second meeting in November, because how we do this typically, for all new folks on council, is that the 6-year plans get approved the last meeting in November, because then you have that in concrete, and that essentially helps for the budget adoption in December, since capital and all that's a large part of it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next, you're gonna speak about the community grant
Yep.
program application.
Yep, so, just making, sure that you're all aware of this, and if you have any changes to the general, application, let me know. So this was a concept created in 2020, didn't do it in 2021 because we didn't have the money to, and then brought back in 2022. So City of Ellensburg pioneered this, and they basically have discretionary current expense money they put into a line item, and then they make it available for community projects that range around economic empowerment, livability, things of that item. And they've had very good success with that. So we have essentially followed what they have done to essentially foster that level of innovation. Now, just so everyone is aware what has been awarded in the past, in 2020, there was an application from essentially the Providence Foundation, because that helped pay for a city's contribution with the Cepheid COVID machine. They helped pay for that. And then last year, essentially, there were 4 of them given out for Center for Humanitarian Engagement from the university, the Hey Neighbor app. In Actus, they were working on like a recycling pilot, and they helped with that. Walla Valley Academy put in for some assistance for renovation and the theater and so forth. And then Blue Mountain Action Council put in for a request as well. So in years past, we've typically budgeted around 5,000. In this year's request is being bumped up to 15,000 because historically we have funded that Mercy Corps program. And at least this upcoming year, Mercy Corps has changed how they're doing everything, and they're actually pulling out of our market. And BMAC has not taken on that program yet. So next year there will be no program. So instead we're reallocating it to this. to allow for maybe other organizations to put in for, general concepts. Now, just so everyone's aware, that Mercy Corps program, I think there'll be an element that comes back under the auspices of Blue Mountain Action Council and their wealth building, asset, building cohort, probably the following year, but not this, upcoming year. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of this. If you have any suggestions for improvement, please let me know. Otherwise, as soon as the budget passes, we'll put this out on the streets and hopefully we'll continue to get applications as we have them.
I think it would be helpful if we kind of let our property owners, our commercial property owners know about it, because perhaps maybe they want to fix up a facade or something there along College Avenue.
That would be gifting of fun. It has to be like a neighborhood, like
Okay.
group or organ. So for
Okay.
instance, if we had a downtown association, that would, see, that's why I pushed for the downtown
Yeah.
association. Because
That's a
if,
sore spot.
because if you give it to individual people, then essentially that's that whole gifting of funds. Then it has to be some sort of organization, and
Okay.
that's why I will continue to advocate that at some point someone does
Yeah.
that here. So, yeah.
Hopefully at some point we have enough business owners
Yeah.
interested in participating.
Yep.
Any questions for Mike on the community grant program?
A comment, just we try to get together a downtown business owners association a couple years ago through parks and recreations, and it wasn't successful, but there might be a new appetite, with oncoming members into the downtown area. I mean, there could be an appetite to get the group together, especially when there's an incentive to look at a program such as this one that could, bring a benefit to the community.
Yeah, agreed, good point. All right, if there's nothing else, we're gonna move on to our last item on the agenda, which is upcoming community events. And Mr. Rizzatello and City Clerk Sherry St. Clair is gonna present on that.
So yesterday we had our annual trunk or treat event and we had a great turnout. Everybody really enjoyed it. I want to say thank you to all of the community and local organizations and staff that helped put this together. Let's see, upcoming, we have the Walla Walla Valley Veterans Day Parade on November 11th at 11:11 a.m. That's going to be in downtown Walla Walla. And it starts at First and Main Street. We also have the Light Up the Avenue event coming up. That's going to be on December 1st. We'll have a tree lighting ceremony at 5:30. And parade will start around 6. And then there'll be a laser light show. And we are accepting applications, parade entry forms for that event.
And just say I would definitely like to thank Sherry for all the work you did on Autumn on the Avenue. That was very successful. Some of the initial counts from that is at the city booth. There was candy given, actually over 800 youth at the city booth. And then the count at the Rural Library District Bookmobile, which was up towards the street, they actually had a participation count of over 2,300 people at the end of the night. So very successful. For Veterans Day, just so everyone's aware of why we're advertising a Walla Walla event, is that every year we actually co-sponsor it with them. In years past, initially, we threw it out there. If there was a group that wanted to do something similar here, there was not enough of a critical mass to do that. So we pool our resources with them and do a regional one. And then as far as the Light Up the Avenue event goes, we'll have the parade as per usual on College Avenue with the laser light show. That is in essentially response to some of the inquiries we've gotten about the whole firework debate. In this case, Columbia REA gave a very generous donation because this does cost substantially more than fireworks. Fireworks are about $4,000 to $4,500. Laser light show falls in the range of between 12 and 13,000. So Columbia REA and then a private donor out of Blue Mountain Community Foundation, coupled with some of our funds, it's what's going to make it happen. So that will be over same place, the old Rogers Field on the campus Wawa University. I just got that signed off on by them, so that will occur out there. And then, yeah, this will, only other areas I'm aware that does this is I know Corvallis does this, and then some of the areas around Seattle, but we'll see how this goes, so.
Well, I do want to say, again, also, congratulations on a very successful event, Sherry. It was, weather held out, rain started just around 6 o'clock, but we had an excellent turnout and the staff, they were in costumes. So if you didn't go see them, you missed out. Some of them were a little scary. John, I'm looking at you. But it was fun. The staff really went out of their way to make it fun for the community, as well as some of our vendors that came out. The music was great. People were dancing, kids were dancing, adults were dancing. I think it went out very well, and I won't be surprised if the numbers, kids exceed 1,000, and obviously the adults, but it was fantastic. So thank you very much, and thank you to the staff for their hard work and handing out all that candy. I see we have a little left over. I'm helping to the cause. And regarding the laser light show, Mike, thank you, because I kept pushing Mike to look into that for some time. But it is in response to some community requests that we consider doing something different. And we thought that this would be a compromise between fireworks and still celebrating with the community as far as lights and entertainment for family. 4th of July is still 4th of July, and that's unlikely to change, but at least this time around, we can do a little something that's Christmassy, has great Christmas music. Generally around this time, we have low cloud cover anyways, and so hopefully those laser lights bounce off those clouds pretty nicely, and we have a great show. But it's certainly in response to the community's request for some other type of consideration of entertainment. But I'm excited about it. So thank you, Mike, for making that happen.
Yeah, we're gonna add some audio, we're gonna hear some. How this works, $12,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're bringing their own power and sound equipment and lasers, so I'm really not sure how this works either, because I have never.
You've never seen one?
No.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, the laser lights move to the music.
Oh, fun.
So, what? No,
That's $90,000.
they actually,
I've checked.
yeah, it's actually a bunch of lasers that they actually make lights, pictures, shapes that kind of go with the music.
Right.
And it's gonna be Christmas or holiday music, so, it'll be festive. And again, we'll see how it really turns out. But I have high hopes for it. At least we gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Ms. Williams.
I got a question the other day of what's the deadline to apply to be in the parade? And I was like, you can probably find out from the webpage.
Well, that'd be too easy. I wouldn't know.
I guess we don't have
Yeah.
a deadline on this one.
Yeah, I don't think I think just as long as they turn it in like a day or two before, honestly, in years past, we just took it off because we had the deadline and then people were still. We actually would reserve spots out on the street just in case, because people like tend to randomly show up,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I would love to see, more people or cars, more bikes, more, you know, I even told my husband, we can put lights out of ourselves and walk our dogs with little costumes or something, right?
Okay,
So
thank,
encourage your friends.
Yeah, and then ride with the big bike group, cause
Yeah.
that's where I am.
I think I'm gonna mention it to some of our engineering clubs. I bet they could come up with some fun stuff.
That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I would like to, see, if we could maybe get some additional outreach with the university. Cause the first year I was, here, actually, no, it was the second, cause it was 2017. It basically coordinated with one of the anniversaries of the university. And I would say the amount of, entries in a parade was like double what it was like in other years. So the participation there went off a little bit. It'd be good if that could maybe bounce back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
I'll suggest that to the engineering ones that are the only ones that I have clout with.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other items for good of the order? We're at the end. All right. Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to conclude?
So moved.
Thank you.
Shall I say?
I guess. Do we have a second?
Second,
All right, so there's no objection, right? The meeting is concluded at 6:52. 6:52 PM. Thanks, everybody. Oh,
well, I was just gonna say, if it's not a real meeting, so we don't need a quorum, I'm not sure that we need a motion
Yeah.
to
we may
stop.
not actually need to conclude it. I was thinking that as well.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
good night, everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you.